Chapter 555 Qiu'er's Heart. This place is beautiful. Tang Wutong couldn't help but enthuse. Qiu'er Yuao chortled. Yes, it's beautiful. Come, let's go down and have a look. He held onto Tang Wutong as he flew up. This time, they didn't land on the ground again. They relied on their soul power to maintain their altitude. They were only 30 centimeters from the ground, but refused to step on it. How could they bear to step on this blue-silver grass? The more they ventured into the mountain valley, the more refreshing the air became. There was even a slight flowery fragrance. Occasionally, bees and butterflies flew over to feed on nectar and pollinate flowers. It was like a paradise. Very soon, they came to the bottom of the valley. There weren't any tall trees here, but blue-silver grass continued to carpet the entire valley. No soil was exposed at all. Qiu'er Yuao's eyes were full of bliss as he held Tang Wutong's hand. From the environment here, it seemed like there was a huge possibility that they could find it. Lights flashed in his eyes again. Qiu'er Yuao's spiritual power extended downward, like water flowing down. This time, he didn't fuse his spiritual power with the plants, but relied solely on his own spiritual power to survey his surroundings. Once his spiritual power spread, the entire mountain valley was under his surveillance. At this moment, the blue-silver grasses, which was originally very calm, started to shake. Following this, patches of grass seemed to sense something. They all spiked up, as if they were pricks. The harmony was replaced by a sinister and hostile aura. They're panicking, Tang Wutong said, stunned. As her spiritual senses were enhanced the previous night, she was currently extremely sensitive to the aura of plants. She believed that Qiu'er Yuao could also sense what she sensed. However, Qiu'er Yuao was unmoved. He was silently sensing the hostility coming from the blue-silver grass around him. It was pure hostility. The reason was simple too. This was because Qiu'er Yuao was snooping around. Pure blue-silver grass didn't possess such an ability. The reason why they were able to react in this manner was because there was something like Qiu'er Yuao that was spiritually connected to them. This something was even closer to them than Qiu'er Yuao when he connected with plants. Qiu'er Yuao laughed. This time, he had truly verified it. The strong hostility that came from the blue-silver grass affected his spiritual detection. However, Qiu'er Yuao didn't seem to have any reaction to it. He maintained his composure and continued to pour out his spiritual power. Behind him, a dim golden projection started to appear. It had the appearance of the Emperor Beast. At the same time, his eye of destiny also opened. The light of destiny gently shone. Qiu'er Yuao's spiritual power also grew significantly stronger. The hostility of the blue-silver grass was immediately crushed under Qiu'er Yuao's immense spiritual power. It was also at this moment that Qiu'er Yuao lifted his head. A streak of gentle white light shot out from his eye of destiny. It shot through the air before turning into countless spots of white light. These spots of white light fell from the sky, resembling a light rain. This light rain covered the entire mountain valley. Tang Wutong also basked in this rain. It was very new and comfortable for her. It was a strength that came from fortune, even though it couldn't change anything directly. It influenced the future. Destiny's adjudication. The valley rapidly quieted down. The blue-silver grass also turned from hard to soft. Everything seemed to turn back to normal. For these plants that could only perform the most basic of functions, their senses were simple and direct, but very acute. The fortune that Qiu'er Yuao brought upon them and the aura of the Emperor Beast left them very excited. The hostility that had formed earlier vanished completely. Qiu'er Yuao smiled. Senior, why don't you come out to meet me? I don't harbor any ill intentions. Emperor Beast. You actually have the aura of the Emperor Beast. How? A low-pitched voice sounded from afar. It's because she was my lover. Even though Tang Wutong was around, Qiu'er Yuao still dared to say this. Wang Qiu'er had sacrificed everything for him. So what if she was a soul beast? She would always own a part of his heart. Tang Wutong acted like she didn't hear that. Her expression didn't change, and she even appeared comforted. Such a man was deserving of her love. That voice was silent for a moment. However, your lover has become your ability. Qiu'er Yuao also went silent. After this, he slowly landed. The blue-silver grass on the ground automatically swayed, and let him sit cross-legged on the ground. Tang Wutong sat down beside him. Qiu'er Yuao let go of her hand, and there was a change in his expression. A sorrowful look surfaced. He wasn't willing to recall those memories. However, he had no choice if he wanted to help Teacher Qiu'er. He shut his eyes, and Wang Qiu'er appeared in his mind. That handkerchief that was blown by the wind and the ravishing beauty of the goddess of light started surfacing in his memories. I'm Wang Qiu'er. A cold voice echoed in his mind. It was a low-pitched roar, which was exactly her style when she unleashed her power. Her golden sphere formed countless projections in her hand. Her immense strength helped her defeat opponent after opponent. Her cold yet silent gaze was a representation of the warmth in her heart. Beneath her cold exterior, she was actually very passionate and emotional. He was avoiding her, but she was persistent and reluctant. Everything that happened in the past, every scene, every matter, and every item, surfaced in Qiu'er Yuao's mind. It was only at the end, when she burned herself without any hesitation for him and turned into an intense sacrificial flame, that he realized that he had been wrong. Actually, she was already part of his heart, no matter how much he didn't want to admit it. He was heartbroken, completely heartbroken. After her sacrifice, he had not attempted to recall what had happened then. This was because he was afraid. He was really afraid. He was afraid of such pain. Right now, he found it very stifling and difficult to breathe when he was struck by this excruciating pain. Tears had long since covered his face. His entire body was shaking tremendously, and dim golden lights rippled in the air. His sorrow affected the blue-silver grass and flowers around him. They drooped down as if they had withered. They mourned along with him. A dim golden projection slowly became real behind him. The projection walked in front of him and raised a paw, wanting to touch him. However, she didn't do so in the end. She only lowered her head, and her eyes were filled with sorrow and reluctance. At this moment, a thin white palm stretched over, grabbing its front paw. The three-eyed golden lion lifted its head in astonishment, and all she saw was a sincere-looking face. There was a very sad and melancholic look on his face. The three-eyed golden lion nodded at her. The look in its eyes also became much gentler. As golden light flashed, the three-eyed golden lion's projection fused into Tang Wutong's body. Tang Wutong shook a little before she opened her eyes. You owl. A gentle call jolted Qiu'er Yuao at his senses. He was now covered in tears as he slowly opened his eyes. This voice was too familiar. The coldness and tone of this voice wrenched at his heart. Qiu'er, I'm sorry. Qiu'er Yuao sobbed. A hand reached over. It was slender and long. As it pulled at him, Qiu'er Yuao was lifted from the ground. He was stunned. He saw a pair of cold eyes. It was a familiar coldness, and a familiar face. There was also a sense of warmth contained within that coldness. Qiu'er, Qiu'er. Qiu'er Yuao was completely stunned. His excruciating pain immediately turned into a wave of emotions. He opened his arms and hugged her tightly. Qiu'er, she was Qiu'er. She leaned into his embrace, and the coldness in her eyes gradually dissipated. What replaced it was satisfaction. It was satisfaction that came from her heart. No sealed strength forced them apart. They hugged tightly just like that. The pain that Qiu'er Yuao felt in his heart gradually vanished amidst this gentleness. He also radiated more vigor now. Qiu'er, is this really you? Qiu'er Yuao asked softly. Yes, it's me. In fact, I've always wanted to be with you. Don't be sad. To me, this might actually be the best result. But Qiu'er Yuao wanted to say something, but he was caught speechless once again. There are no buts. When I made this choice, I thought that it was the best for us. I fused into your body and became a part of you. No force can separate us anymore. This is what I wanted. Furthermore, the power of my soul and origin fused into the sleeping Donga, under the control of the power of destiny. This is why she has both mine and Donga's abilities. Now that she has recovered her memories, she's a fusion of Donga and myself. My soul is in your body, and my abilities are with her. That's why I've never really left you. Yuao, do you know how happy I am? This is my first time feeling your love for me. This is already enough for me. Stay happy with Donga. Whether she's Donga or Tang Wutong, she's your greatest love. I'm only a part of what you truly love. When I first transformed myself into her, I'd already lost. I can't beat her, ever. I love you, but she loves you more. You have a little crush for me, but your entire heart belongs to her. This is already the best result. Don't be as sad. This is the future. I'll be even sadder if you're like this. When you miss me, you can hug Wutong. If you're together with her, it'll be like you and I are together. You, me and her are no longer separable. Qiu'er Yuao was in a daze as he listened to Wang Qiu'er. He finally understood why Donga's martial soul experienced such a mutation after she became Tang Wutong, and how she was able to use the golden sphere. It turned out that Wang Qiu'er's strength was indeed in her body. Qiu'er, you've sacrificed too much for me. Wang Qiu'er smiled and said, before I sacrificed myself for you, weren't you willing to sacrifice your own life for me? Even though you were in despair then, I was still very satisfied. Yuao, I love you. You must take care of yourself. Remember, I'm always by your side. I'm always here. As she spoke, she lifted her hand and gently caressed Qiu'er Yuao's eye of destiny, as well as his entire forehead. Yes. That was where the three-eyed golden lion skull of destiny was. Dim gold separated from Tang Wutong's body and refused into Qiu'er Yuao. Qiu'er Yuao only sensed an indescribable gentleness sweeping over him, relieving the pain and sorrow in his heart. Tang Wutong was still in his arms. She didn't get up. Qiu'er Yuao's tears also stopped flowing. Yes. Qiu'er has always been inside my body, forever. Qiu'er Yuao's tears finally dried up, and he lowered his head to look at the person in his arms. He gently touched her long, wavy, pinkish blue hair. Qiu'er Yuao finally called, Wutong. Tang Wutong lifted her head and gave him a smile. I'm sorry. Qiu'er Yuao said softly. Tang Wutong glared at him. I need to punish you. What? Qiu'er Yuao was stunned. Warm, smooth red lips touched his own. That gentle touch and fragrance mixed with the love of Wang Donga, and Wang Qiu'er immediately reminded Qiu'er Yuao of everything. In the next instant, golden light shone brightly, and Qiu'er Yuao flew up. He drew a beautiful arc in the air. His flying type soul tool opened up behind him. He poured out his soul power and managed to stabilize himself in the air. It seemed that Wang Donga still minded his relationship with Wang Qiu'er. However, he felt overwhelmingly ecstatic when he was kissed. At that instant, he could sense two different sets of love. He controlled his body in the air, and his eyes had already become clear by now. Tang Wutong gazed deeply at him. He chuckled and flew back beside Tang Wutong, holding her hands. The world of humans is indeed very complex. I didn't expect you to obtain the love of the Emperor Beast. The low-pitched voice from before let out a sigh. Do you believe me now? Qiu'er Yuao asked. The greatest pain and sorrow in his heart had been invoked, but he had managed to see Wang Qiu'er. He finally understood everything. This wasn't just pain to him, it was an escape too. It made his spiritual awareness much clearer as well. Okay, so what are you here for? The voice asked. Qiu'er Yuao pondered for a moment before saying, I have a very important friend. She was affected by evil soul masters. She suffered critical injuries. Her martial soul is a blue silver grass. If we want her to recover, she'll need your power. That's why I hope we can get a leave from you. Of course, I won't take it for nothing. You can list your conditions. As long as I can fulfill them, I'll do my best. I only want to make an exchange. That low-pitched voice went silent for a moment. You are very strong. I can sense a lot of danger from your body. You also have the help of the Emperor Beast. You can defeat me easily and take me back. Why do you not do that? I swore I'd never attack a soul beast unless I'm trying to defend myself. Qiu'er Yuao replied sincerely. That's why I only want to make an exchange with you. The voice was astonished. As a human soul master, you actually swore not to kill soul beasts. Qiu'er Yuao nodded and said, yes. After I established spirits, I could avoid killing soul beasts to obtain their powers. He described what spirits were, and even released the star anise mysterious ice grass. The star anise mysterious ice grass was also a plant-type soul beast. It had the most acute senses when it came to other plant-type soul beasts. Indeed, the voice became much gentler after he saw the star anise mysterious ice grass and heard Qiu'er Yuao's story. Thanks for thinking for soul beasts. Just based on this, I think I can help you. However, As he spoke until here, he went silent for a bit. Qiu'er Yuao's heart tightened. He had finally found this blue silver emperor. If he was unwilling, Qiu'er Yuao couldn't force him at all because of his vow. What should I do if that's the case? Teacher Xiaoyu is still waiting for him to save her. If you have any difficulties, you can tell me. If possible, I'll do my best to help you. Although Qiu'er Yuao knew that he was being very rushed, he was aware that there was no room for mistakes. That low-pitched voice sighed and said, I've already lived in this world for 190,000 years. However, I'm still only a blue silver grass. Even though I'm already an emperor, I still can't overcome the heavenly punishment that's about to come due to my innate abilities. That's why I'm about to die. Perhaps your plan can bring you new life. Qiu'er Yuao was delighted when heard this. However, he still asked, you can choose to be reborn. Can't soul beasts choose to be reborn when they reach a bottleneck? You are mistaken. That's only at the 100,000 year mark. After that, you can't take that path anymore if you don't choose to be reborn after a certain period of time. I'm already close to the 200,000 year stage. That's why I can't do it anymore. Perhaps some powerful soul beasts can think of another way. However, I can't do that because of my own lineage. Qiu'er Yuao was only enlightened now. A blue silver grass would still face problems with its lineage even if it became a blue silver emperor. Under such a circumstance, it would be unable to be like the snow empress, able to be reborn even if its cultivation was very high. It sounded logical too, given the snow empress talent as the icy snow lady and 700,000 year cultivation. She could only choose to be reborn as an embryo, which eventually led to a catastrophe. She eventually became Qiu'er Yuao's spirit. Compared to the snow empress, the blue silver emperor's cultivation was far inferior. Qiu'er Yuao said, as long as you are willing, it's not a problem. I can bring you back to fuse with my friend. Don't worry, my friend is incredibly talented. She's only 2 years older than me, but she already has 8 rings. If you can give her a ninth soul ring in the near future, I believe she'll become one of the strongest humans. All right, I shall trouble you then. The blue silver emperor said satisfactorily. At this moment, the blue silver grass in the valley started to shake. They weren't fearful and hostile this time. Rather, they were excited and agitated. Qiu'er Yuao seemed to sense the presence of giant pythons slithering over from all directions. Blue vines started to rise up, and they eventually gathered together. Every vine appeared smooth and transparent. They were clear like blue crystals. However, there seemed to be veins inside these vines, and these veins seemed to be moving. The vines quickly wrapped around one another and formed the appearance of a human. This human nodded at Qiu'er Yuao before moving towards him. It revolved around him and gradually adopted the entire form of a human. However, this human form wasn't the manifestation of a savage beast, but the product of vines twisting around one another. It was as if it had been woven. The originally thick vines also shrank too. They were only as thick as human thumbs now. It appeared very strange. We'll follow you, the blue silver emperor said. Qiu'er Yuao nodded at him and said, thanks for your trust. The blue silver emperor pursed his lips and seemed to be smiling. In fact, I believe in the emperor beast's taste. She can't be wrong. Tang Wutong was a little curious as she looked at the blue silver emperor. Right now, she fully understood why Qiu'er Yuao was here. It was just that there was an extra special look in her eyes when she looked at the blue silver emperor. Qiu'er Yuao nodded at the blue silver emperor and said, please follow us then. He held Tang Wutong's hand and gradually flew out. At the same time, he extended his spiritual antenna towards the blue silver emperor. At the start, the blue silver emperor hesitated for a moment. However, he was soon very astonished as he realized that Qiu'er Yuao's spiritual antenna contained spiritual undulations that belonged to plants. Even though he was only simulating it, it felt very close and kind. Subconsciously, the blue silver emperor also released his spiritual power to connect with Qiu'er Yuao. As their spiritual senses connected, Qiu'er Yuao unleashed his spiritual detection and transmitted everything that he sensed to the blue silver emperor. The blue silver emperor shook. He was astonished as he stared at Qiu'er Yuao with eyes made from vines. I didn't expect your spiritual power to be so strong. Strong spiritual undulations were released from the blue silver emperor and reflected onto Qiu'er Yuao. Qiu'er Yuao sensed every single change that happened to the entire mountain valley. The blue silver emperor used himself as an intermediary to connect with every blue silver grass in the mountain valley. One human and one soul beast looked at each other and smiled. They felt each other's sincerity. At the same time, they picked up speed and rose into the sky. The blue silver emperor sighed. If your martial soul was compatible with mine, I might have chosen you. You are very strong. Although my innate abilities can't compare to many powerful soul beasts, blue silver grass have very acute senses. From your body, I can sense that you have a bright future. Qiu'er Yuao chortled and replied, when you see my friend, you won't be disappointed. Her martial soul is a blue silver emperor. You should know that there are very few humans that can cultivate blue silver grass. There was one person who managed to successfully do so in the past, and this person was very powerful. That person is also my elder. The blue silver emperor nodded and said, I know who you're talking about. Oh. Qiu'er Yuao was a little astonished as he looked at the blue silver emperor. You know about him? The blue silver emperor nodded and replied, although our species is small and weak, our life energy is actually the most prosperous among all plants. We also have the highest population among all the plant species in this world. Our roots are connected by our spiritual senses. This is why we can sense if anything big happens to one of us. It is almost as rare to find blue silver grass that can cultivate as it is to find a human soul master with a blue silver grass martial soul. It requires great fortune. We can only cultivate if we are aided by the power of heaven and earth. I was baptized thrice by heavenly lightning. The power of the lightning spirit exists in my body, which has completely transformed me. I'm also aware of the person you're talking about. She had the purest lineage and was of royal blood. That individual you are talking about is her kid, who broke free from the restraints of this world and became a god. Speaking of her, I think it's only right that I address her as your majesty. Qiu'er Yuao didn't expect that the Blue Silver Emperor had such a connection with Tang San's mother. This was a good thing. This helped to close the gap between them. It seems like all of you have a deep history with my elder. My friend is the current sect leader of the Tang Sect, which was established by Tang San. Speaking of her, she's a direct descendant of Tang San. It seems like the Tang Sect has a great affinity with your species. Oh. That's actually the case. That's great then. The Blue Silver Emperor was feeling in better spirits now. After witnessing the immense spiritual power that Qiu'er unleashed, he was now very confident in this mission. Plant-type soul beasts were much more simple-minded compared to animal-type soul beasts. However, they were much more sensitive. From Qiu'er, he could sense kindness and justice. In addition, the Emperor Beast also played an important role in his decision. This was why he made his decision without thinking too much about it. Now that he heard this, he felt that his decision was the perfectly right choice. Right now, they were already high up in the air. Qiu'er and Tang Wutong picked up speed at the same time. Flying was naturally not the Blue Silver Emperor's strength. However, this wasn't a major problem. Qiu'er held Tang Wutong with one hand and the Blue Silver Emperor with his other hand. To give the Blue Silver Emperor even more confidence, Qiu'er increased his speed and flew along the south of the Sun Moon Empire towards the Dalu Empire. He was lightning quick and rapidly reached supersonic speed. After the series of blows that had been dealt to them, the Sun Moon Empire withdrew all its defenses to Radiant City. It was even possible to claim that they had temporarily given up on their defenses in the outer cities. No more aerial surveillance soul tools were in place to carry out surveillance. It was a far smoother journey than Qiu'er had expected. Since they were far from Radiant City, they didn't run into any trouble. Very soon, they entered the Dalu Empire's borders and proceeded straight to Shrek City. A flag was flying high in the Heavenly Soul Empire. There was an army within the borders of the empire, but it was extremely large. On an extremely large flag, an image of a golden sun and silver moon was shining brightly. The soldiers were lined up in one single file, which extended for hundreds of kilometers in the Heavenly Soul Empire, or rather, the Sun Moon Empire. This was because the Heavenly Soul Empire had ceased to exist. This army consisted of more than 700,000 soldiers. Most of the Sun Moon Empire's elite soldiers were here. From afar, the army looked like a giant dragon. The formation that it adopted was very complex, but it completely and perfectly covered the perimeter of a massive military base. Even by standing from above, it was impossible to tell how many soul formations there were in this base. The only certainty was that it was completely closed off to people. This was the border. However, it wasn't just the border of the Heavenly Soul Empire. At the same time, it was the border of the Douluo and Dalu empires. At a corner of this border less than 100 kilometers from where the army was stationed was Shrek City. There was a gold-red commander's tent that was more than 10 meters high in this base. More than 1,000 people could fit into this tent without it being overcrowded. But at this moment, there were very few people in the tent. Qiu'er was in the main seat. She was dressed in fiery red armor. The phoenix image on her armor seemed real and alive. It wasn't just ordinary armor. It was custom-made for her, and Kong Deming was the one who personally came up with this human-shaped soul tool. It wasn't used for attacking, but it was extremely effective for defensive purposes. Kong Deming told Qiu'er that even an ultimate Douluo would need more than 3 strikes to overcome the defenses of this human-shaped soul tool. Qiu'er had 6 subordinates with her. The youngest one was already a middle-aged man. There were 3 elders among the 6 too. Every one of them exuded a strong aura. However, they didn't move a single inch. Occasionally, they would glance at Qiu'er. They were all in admiration of her. Qiu'er was holding onto a letter. Between the 6 of them, there was even a guy who was kneeling on one knee. The letter had been brought here by this man, an envoy from Radiant City. The letter wasn't very long. She finished reading it very quickly. After she finished, she put it down, and her brow furrowed. After this, she stood up. After she stood up, the 6 subordinates unwittingly took a step back and opened up some space in the middle for her. A person, especially someone who commanded a huge army, who held an important position for a long time would gradually develop some kind of might and dominance. This was the same for Qiu'er. After she became the War God Empress, her temperament completely changed. She became more reserved, but also more majestic. She slowly walked down. She kept thinking and pondering as she walked. There wasn't a single sound in the tent. Everyone was fixated on her, and they waited silently. After a brief moment, Qiu'er stopped and asked the envoy, "What were His Majesty's instructions?" The envoy said, "War God Empress, His Majesty said that everything will be decided by you." Qiu'er squinted and nodded. She said, "All right, you can leave. I'll need to think of how to reply to His Majesty." Yes. The envoy respectfully took his leave. Whoever waited between 6 Class 9 soul engineers would undoubtedly be subjected to immense pressure. He couldn't wait to leave. Qiu'er returned to her seat and said, "His Majesty has sent news that the Empire was attacked by an unknown enemy. More than 10 cities were plundered. Even Radiant City was attacked. The enemies used some kind of special method to sneak to a place near Radiant City before firing thousands of low-grade cannon shells. They even used a Class 9 soul cannon shell. The Imperial Palace was breached, and heavy damage was incurred. As the Sun Moon Imperial Soul Engineer Legion was sent to search for these enemies and was not in the capital, these enemies weren't caught in time. Their whereabouts are currently unknown. Preliminary investigations revealed that there were at least 2 Soul Engineer Legions. Elder Kong said that these enemies might possibly be able to conceal themselves and possess spatial abilities." After hearing Qiu'er's words, the 6 Class 9 Soul Engineers' expressions changed. What was the greatest fear of an army? It was that things weren't stable at the back. Under normal conditions, things at the back could be stabilized by sending some reinforcements back. They were now in control of the Heavenly Soul Empire. Although they weren't afraid of a lack of reinforcements, internal instability within the Empire would affect proceedings at the front line. One elder who was standing at the left said, "Marshal, we must not let news of this spread. We must seal all information." Qiu'er nodded and said, "Whatever I say will stay between the 7 of us." "What do you think?" The elder who had just spoken commented, "It's unbelievable. It's impossible." Qiu'er revealed a weird look on her face. "I have the same thought too. There are many aerial surveillance soul tools around the Empire. Perhaps the 3 empires of the original Douluo continent can come up with 2 Soul Engineer Legions. However, they shouldn't be too strong. Concealment and spatial abilities. This is a joke. Even our empire hasn't come up with something like that. How did they manage to do so?" An elder on the right said, "Marshal, perhaps it's the doing of some powerful soul masters." Qiu'er answered, "In Elder Kong's analysis, he mentioned that powerful soul masters can conceal themselves using soul skills. However, if they are bringing along 2 Soul Engineer Legions with 300 heavy cannons, that is completely impossible. Currently, they are unsure of how the enemies managed to do so. However, the problem is that the enemies are unpredictable. It's difficult to track them. This time, are we the ones suffering because of a lack of surveillance and intelligence? Thanks so much for watching this video. Don't forget to hit the like button and subscribe. Also leave a comment down below with suggestions on what novels to read.